Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we take a look at another aircraft, quite a special one, the only Dutch fighter here in the game. This is the Fokker D.XXI, and this is a weird one. It has a lot of history behind it, and a lot of heritage as well. Here in the game it is, well, a little bit. It's an interesting aircraft. Let's put it at that. But today we will go over the history of this aircraft, its attributes, and how to play it in War Thunder. So let's start with the history part right away. Now, Fokker is an aircraft company with a lot of heritage behind it. Its founder, Anthony Fokker, built a lot of famous fighters for the Germans during World War I, with the most famous example, of course, being the Fokker D.XXI triplane, flown by legendary ace Manfred von Richthofen, and with another design, the Fokker D.7 being declared the best fighter aircraft of World War I. So much so, in fact, that it was specifically stated in the Treaty of Versailles that all Fokker 7s were to be surrendered or destroyed. Now, Anthony Fokker did not cease designing new fighter aircraft after World War I, with a number of decent designs being fielded, particularly in the civil sector. However, the Dutch really never were interested in a large air force. And by the mid-1930s, the few aircraft they did have were mostly biplanes, and by the mid-1930s more and more high-performance monoplanes started to appear. Prototypes of the Bf-109, for example, or the Hurricane and Spitfire. And it was clear that the future would belong to the monoplane instead of the biplane. Now, you have to remember that the Netherlands by the time were not limited to the Netherlands we know today. Back then they had a colony in the Pacific called the Dutch East Indies. And the Dutch saw the need to protect this territory with a rugged fighter aircraft. By this time, Japan had shown increasing signs of territorial aggression, and the Dutch East Indies were of much value to the Dutch, with vast amount of natural resources. The Dutch homeland only had a small air force, and they didn't invest not even nearly as much in it as other countries did. That's why they put forth the specification for an overseas fighter specifically designed for the Dutch East Indies. The new aircraft was to be rugged, easy to maintain, flexible, and with an ability to operate from rough airfields, while maintaining respectable performance for this period. The resulting aircraft was to be a product of its time, with a mix of advanced and more archaic attributes. Lead designer for the new type was Erich Schatzky. He designed a low-wing monoplane with a fixed undercarriage and of mixed construction. Fabric, wood, and metal would be the materials that made up the Fokker D.XXI. The aircraft had a fully enclosed plexiglass canopy and was to be fitted with four 30 caliber machine guns, although provisions were made for 20mm cannons as well, to be fitted in underwing blisters. Power was provided by a Bristol Mercury, although various other engine installments were initially and later proposed. The Mercury is a 9-cylinder air-cooled radial, which, depending on the variant, could produce up to over 800 horsepower, giving the aircraft decent power for the time of its design. The Mercury would also, for example, be used on the Gloucester Gladiator, another famous fighter of that time period. First taking to the sky on the 27th of March 1936 at Eindhoven, the first test flights proved successful, with the D.XXI fulfilling its design specifications. However, the Dutch ministry then, for whatever reason, had a change of heart and decided that the bombers were deemed more important, and thus the future for the D.XXI looked rather bleak. Not only were bombers prioritized at this point, but another Fokker design, the G1 Heavy Fighter, gained much more interest, and another fighter, the Kolhoven Fk-58, funnily enough also designed by Erich Schatzky, was a much more modern aircraft with retractable undercarriage and better performance. Nevertheless, the Fk-58 ran into delays, and the cheap and easy-to-produce Fokker D.XXI gained some interest by foreign nations, all looking to expand their fighter inventory with a new low-cost aircraft. The Finns were the first to show interest, and not only did they buy 7 D-21s, they also purchased a manufacturing license for the type. The Dutch government at this point also finally gave in, and in 1937 ordered 36 of the type, all of which had been delivered by 1939. Spain also showed interest and acquired a manufacturing license, but the tumultuous situation in Spain at the time, in the form of the Spanish Civil War, led to none of the aircraft being completed. The Danish government also showed interest in the type, acquiring 2 of the aircraft as well as a manufacturing license. These D-21s had a Mercury engine of an earlier variant and had the least engine power, but made up for it by having 2 20mm cannon installed. The Finnish would be the largest user of the type, and built a number of their 21s with the American Pratt & Whitney Twin Wasp Jr. All in all, Finland would operate 100 of the type, with at least one of them being outfitted with the 20mm cannons as well. All in all, 148 D-21s would be built. They first saw service with the Finns against the Soviets in the 1939 to 1940 Winter War, where the D-21 showed itself a very capable dogfighter against the Russian early types such as the I-15s and even against the I-16. A number of aces flew the D-21 during this time, and the aircraft earned a feared reputation. While slow, the D-21 was exceptionally maneuverable, with great dive performance, and it did surprisingly well in the cold weather, given its partly wooden structure. Its adaptability and ruggedness were of utmost importance to the Finns, who often employed skis on the 21 to operate it from snowy fields and even frozen lakes. During the course of the Continuation War, the Fokkers met much more capable types and were relegated to more second-line duties such as reconnaissance. Nevertheless, the type was operated by the Finns until 1949, so well after World War II. The Dutch Fokkers had their baptism of fire when Germany invaded the Netherlands in 1940. 28 of the 36 were ready for combat, and they gave it their best shot. While they scored a surprising number of kills, it was clear that the Fokker 21 in a direct duel was really not that much of a match for Germany's Bf 109, with a top speed of 460 kilometers, and the 109's far better altitude performance against the 21. The Dutch fighter found itself outclassed. Nevertheless, the 21 could be a dangerous opponent under the right circumstances. Thanks to its great maneuverability and light airframe, the 21 could easily outmaneuver its German counterpart in turn fights, similar to what I-16s were sometimes able to do during the invasion of the Soviet Union. With only 36 machines available, however, the D-21 stood little chance against the German war machine, and all of them were rather quickly destroyed or fell into German hands. Some of these aircraft were tested by the Germans, although their ultimate fate remains unknown. A number of promising re-engined versions of the 21 did not manage to be built before the war was over for the Dutch. Today, one D-21 resides in the Finnish Aviation Museum, and a replica is also present in the Dutch Museum in Zesterberg. As of this year, a beautifully built D-21 replica is also in airworthy condition, being built as carefully as possible to original specifications. It's actually gorgeous sight to see one of these more obscure aircraft of World War II finally up in the sky again. I mean, it is available on YouTube. You can take a look at it. It really is a magnificent machine. But yeah, that makes up the history part for this aircraft. I'd say let's jump to the aircraft here in game. Well, first things first, there are 2 D-21s available. The one I am most prominently flying out today is the D-21, the premium one, with the 20mm Oerlikon FF cannons. There's also the D-21-3, and this sits at lower BR and has only the 430 cals as originally specified. The premium one sits at a battle rank of 2.0. Let's go over the modifications. Of course, for the premium ones, you don't get any for the premium one. As for the amount of ammunition you should use, I would say I take the 7.7mm tracer rounds, though that is really up to you if you take universals or the tracer or the stealth bells. For the offensive ones, I would actually go with the default ones, since they are half filled with high explosive shells, and the other ones don't really have that much HE shells, to be honest. As for the D.XXI-3, it basically has the same modifications. As you can see, I haven't flown this one out as much. Yeah, definitely go for the performance mods on this one first. I'm gonna go over the performance in the test flight section, but you really need those. All the other things, forget it. These things come first, and then whatever you want of these. The aircraft is cheap to run. I mean, it's a very low BR aircraft, as you can see, 920, 293. It's not that expensive. The performance figures seem about right. It depends on what version of D21s they use their reference specs for, because there were different versions with different power levels and speed. For example, the Danish were the lowest powered ones. The Finns used some with the Twin Wasp Junior engine, which I think is not modeled here. I think all of them use the Bristol Mercury here in game. Yeah, Mercury 8. And the D21, yeah, they all use the Mercury 8. Yeah. Skins. You get one skin for the premium D21, which is the one I am using here. And it's actually gorgeous looking skin, if you ask me. I love it. It really looks great. The standard one is the same as the D.XXI-3. It's this, dark green with light underside. It's not particularly good looking, if you ask me. It looks sort of boring. And this one does not get any skins whatsoever. Now then, let's take a look at the aircraft in a test flight. Now then, let's come to the test flight segment of this video. Let's start with the positive things about the D.XXI. It's very, very light. Fully loaded, the D.XXI weighed only 2 tons, which, this makes this thing a real featherweight. This also gives the aircraft a very low wing loading. Its wing loading is 121 kilograms, which is pretty good. It's pretty damn good, in fact. And this makes the D.XXI a very, very good dogfighter. The aircraft feels stable, it is responsive, and it has a pretty good roll rate, particularly between 350 and 400 kilometers per hour. Its sustained turn time is very good. As you can see, it's easy to get it into a curve, and it will remain stable in the turn with speeds of roughly 270 km per hour. This can be further increased with the use of flaps. The flaps are not that strong, as you can see, but for this close-range dogfighting it should be enough. The aircraft is not fast in the first place, and as you can see, its turn radius is really, really tight. The premium one carries very heavy armament. These 20mm cannons clap really hard, and with the D.XXI being a close-range dogfighter, the limited ammo amount is not that much of a problem. You can easily get 4 kills if you have good trigger and armor and good trigger control. The aircraft is also not that bad in a dive. It has good acceleration during a dive. It remains controllable in a dive pretty well. As you can see, the roll rate is really good. And the controls don't lock up at all. Another positive thing, and that is one maneuver you can fly with the D.XXI, is it has very good rudder authority. That makes it decent for hammerheads, and it also allows the D.XXI to sort of get out of a turn down low. This can be particularly helpful to throw off your opponent's aim. And that's pretty much all I can say for the positive things. Now for the bad things. The engine is trash. The Mercury here in game is just not up to the task. It does not cut the mustard. The D.XXI feels underpowered. As you can see, acceleration in a straight line is not good. You will be outrun by almost anything you will face, particularly in a down tier, which you will have most of the time in my experience, at least with the premium one. The other one sits at 1.7 and we'll see more down tiers, but still, there it has lots of other problems. That being that the D.XXI, while being maneuverable, it ain't a Key 27. This thing cannot really turn fight with biplanes all too much. And a good biplane pilot will easily outfly the D.XXI. Not only will he outmaneuver it, some of the high-performance biplanes like the CR-42 or the I-153, they can catch this thing in a straight line. And that makes the D.XXI-3 not particularly enjoyable to fly. This one at least has the 20mm cannons. And this thing sees more up tiers where it is certainly able to deal with other monoplane fighters in turn fights. However, it just takes forever for this thing to reach the battle area. And it's also a very flimsy aircraft. The D.XXI, remember, is a featherweight, and the engine is just so susceptible to damage. It just takes one hit from a bomber into the engine and it's dead. I've had this happen so often. And another really annoying thing is that this thing is very susceptible to flak damage. Flak at this PR is a real menace, and I have been shot down by flak more often than I have died to enemy fighters. It's really annoying. All that makes the D.XXI, it's not a bad aircraft in my opinion. It just isn't much fun to fly. Because there are other options available you can fly, not in the finish tree, but overall. The Japanese have the Key 27, which is at the same BR, and while this one doesn't have the same armament as the 21, it is just so much better in every other respect. It's faster, it's even more maneuverable, it climbs better, and, well, yeah, it's just all in all a much more fun aircraft to fly. The D.XXI is just, it's just difficult to describe this thing. I mean, I want to like it. It has so much history behind it, and it's the only Dutch aircraft at the moment in the game. But it just is not. It just isn't fun. And that what sort of kills it for me. That said, I am doing comparatively well with this thing. Again, I have a KD of roughly 2.5 with this aircraft, which is okay. But still, you will see it in the matches. The matches I'm flying with this thing are just not that exciting. But yeah, performance-wise, you should limit your dogfights to the horizontal. Thanks to the low-powered engine, the aircraft is just not very good in the vertical, so hanging into the vertical for too long should be avoided. Again, you can fly hammerheads with this thing. Certainly doable. But your maneuvers should be, under the usual circumstances, limited to the horizontal. Because here it has a decent sustained turn time. And it will outturn most aircraft it faces, particularly at up tiers where it is able to outturn almost anything. However, good luck getting to the airfield before half of the enemy team is either dead or half of your team is dead. That speed really kills the machine. But yeah, that's it for the test flight segment of the D.XXI. Let's head into a battle and see what this thing is able to do. So then, for our first presentation here, we take out the D.XXI in what seems to be a down tier. well, keep in mind here you see the abridged version. I cut a lot of the unnecessary stuff out because again this thing is just so slow that it takes forever to get into combat. Seriously, if I would have kept everything in here uncut, this video would be well over an hour long. Because this thing is just, you can see how far ahead some of the other planes are. Even some of the even the CR714 is in front of me, quite ahead. But yeah, we are rolling into combat here. Choice of aircraft available, we have B-109, I-15, and also an HE-51. So yeah, we are top tier here. And I position myself to make a dive on the HE-51. Okay. But yeah, the Cauldron gets the kill on it. Good for him. I mean, I know what kind of a shit plane that is. And we are switching targets. An I-15 coming in. Need to be careful that we do not engage in a turn fight because he will outturn us. But he's occupied. And I can just cut inside his turn and finish him off. Immediately head into the next furball. Get at least a little bit of altitude to convert it back into speed later. We have two BF-109s coming in. Now this will be fun. Both of them seem to be fixated on the Curtis Hawk, so we can just roll in, get some shots off, 2 hits on one of them, and then we immediately take it into the vertical to bleed more airspeed and just engage him in a turn fight. I can easily get in the 6 of the BF-109A, finish him off, target the second one, which is a BF-109B. And again, I catch him in the turn, and just quickly as that, I have 3 kills to my name. And this is what the D.XXI is really built for, these close edge knife fights. This is where this aircraft excels at. And this is where you can have fun with the machine. I mean, this was a pretty cool engagement. But again, you see how quickly it lasted, how long it lasted, and well, the rest of the game is just usually you just getting into the combat zone or getting back to the airfield to rearm. And that's just not that fun. Anyways, we have a Heinkel 112 coming in and the P-36. Evade the shots of the Heinkel. And also evade the head-on with the P-36. And then flak comes in. And this is where all goes down. And I've been hit multiple times by flak. I have the P-36 on my tail and I am damaged. I desperately am trying to evade him, flying this as defensively as possible. And also need to be careful not to get hit further by flak, which unfortunately does happen. Thankfully, the Fokker's exceptional maneuverability saves me here, as well as my team, of course. Try to get a shot at the Heinkel 112, but he is just way too quick. And this, you can see, this is where also the Fokker D.XXI's great water authority comes in. And I am now hugging the ground, even get touched down a little bit, to just desperately try to evade those flak guns. And it's fun how usually this is really, normally when flak hits me, I get damaged way more severely. I mean, I got really lucky here that it only did comparatively moderate damage. Usually this just kills the engine, and now I am just trying to get back to base, and with my damaged engine this takes forever, so we are spooling at, because, well, this just takes like 5 minutes, I think, just for me to get back to base, and what's the point of just seeing that? Anyways, we are bringing her in for a landing. As you could see how even damaged, how slow and slow I can get with this thing before it loses lift. And this is where I perform what's called by experts a Jingles landing. A cookie for those who know what that line refers to. So yeah, we flipped the plane. I'm waiting to repair, and we are top of the leaderboard with 3 kills so far. And yeah, that's what just happens at these low tier games. I don't know why Gaijin found it necessary to really boost flag at these low tiers so severely. I mean, this is not. It wasn't necessary, in my opinion. I mean, flag was good as it was, but this is just, well, you see, I could not evade those shots. I tried, but I still got hit. And we are ready for takeoff, fully loaded, a full set of ammunition. And again, we will just skip ahead to where I've taken off. And the P-36 comes into view. Now, we are meeting here at the roughly same altitude. He certainly has the speed advantage, while I have the maneuverability advantage. At this kind of altitude, I am actually in a better position here to win this duel. And this is what the D-21 really is made for. Dueling other aircraft. Dueling our fighters. As you can see, I easily can roll and roll onto his 6 and get the shots into him. He is already damaged. Even if he pulls into the vertical, he has no chance of evading me now. And I do kind of waste ammunition here quite severely, but I'm very close to my base. I can afford to really waste all my ammunition on this one plane to really quickly get onto my runway and get another full set of ammunition. And this is where I finish the P-36 off. I have wasted a ton of ammunition, but well, I just go in for a quick landing again. And the last aircraft on the enemy team is Dornier 17. So yeah, this is not an optimal situation. This thing is just not built to engage enemy bombers. I mean, bombers, they shred Fokker D.XXI. With its flimsy engine, you really do not want to engage enemy bombers. And we are slowing down. Again, full flaps deployed, and you can really see how this thing floats over the airfield. And touchdown. We're well ahead on tickets as well, so this should be. I could play this safely, but this is then where the enemy Dornier 17 crashes, which means I win this battle with 4 kills under my belt and top of the leaderboard. So yeah, that's it for the first match in the Fokker D.XXI. As you can see here, the rewards are not too great with this thing. I mean, it is only a low rank aircraft, but still, with a premium you would expect more. This is why one of the reasons why this aircraft might not be worth the purchase. I mean, it is rather cheap, but still. And now we are here in the second match. This time we are in an up tier. We have quite some stiff competition. And I'm making a dive on that A-36 who just completed its attack run. And he seems to be low in energy, which means with my good dive performance I can easily dive in and get some kills. And there's nothing he can do. The Fokker D.XXI in this situation, there's really nothing he could have done. I mean, I am more maneuverable than him, and in this situation he also had the speed advantage, which is something you won't have often in this plane. But yeah, we are converting that build-up speed back into altitude. And, well, there are lots of targets available for us. Well, including P-40s and Wildcats. I mean, this really is some competition. Remember that most of these enemy aircraft, the P-40s, the Wildcats, they can easily go over 500 kilometers per hour. This thing struggles to go over 400. And just even look, even the Heinkel 112, which is not the fastest aircraft at SBR, even look how quickly this thing is able to pull away from this thing. And I'm now trying to get into this cluster of aircraft that forms up in front of me, but well, just look, I just can't catch up to them. This just takes forever. And by the time I am there, half of them are already dead. Now only the P-39's remaining. I'm rolling in here for an attack run. And he decides to turn, which gives me the opportunity to get on his 6 and quickly gets a critical shot in. But this is when the Wildcat makes its appearance, and I switch targets and easily knock the Wildcat out of the sky. And with the Fokker D.XXI's great maneuverability, I am able to quickly switch targets back again to the P-39 and get some more shots into him. This takes some time, however. My shooting really was messy in this engagement. But eventually I am able to finish him off with these 7.7s. And he's down. Then the P-100 comes in. I await his shots and... yeah, you'll see this a lot in these low-tier battles. I mean, players are still trying to learn how to play their respective aircraft, so... oh well, it happens to the best of us. And now I'm out of ammunition and I need to head back to base. So again, we will just skip a little bit ahead, because this just takes forever. You can see how slow this thing is. I mean, this thing basically has the same speed as a Stuka down on the deck. I mean, this is just, well, it's just not that good in the speed department, and we're taking off again. And again, I skip ahead because, again, this just takes forever. The Yak 4 came in, didn't even try to attack him, because, well, he has a rear gunner. And I'm gonna take a quick shot at that AI BF-110, and he already seems pretty hammered, so just get a quick shot, a quick 20mm rounds into him, and score myself an AI kill. And then that's when the P-40 makes its appearance, and I am in a pretty good position to attack him. I am above him, and if he decides to even try to turn, I will be able to knock him out of the sky. The best choice for the P-40 to engage me would be to just use its speed, try to distance himself to climb up a little bit, and then try to re-engage me in movements and maneuvers, because this is where the P-40 certainly shines. However, he is coming straight at me, and he doesn't even attempt to climb up to my altitude, which is quite a mistake, because in this situation I can just easily dive on him, and once I am on his 6, there's virtually nothing he can do against me. And yeah, I'm already calling out to my team that the P-40 is mine, but then also the SB2M makes its appearance. However, I completely ignore the SB2, because again, these things are armed with these CAS machine guns, these ultra rapid fire machine guns, and they will just rip a Fokker D.XXI to shreds. Instead, I'm just diving in on the P-40. And he is trying to evade, but no, way too late. And I catch him in his turn, and boom, knock him out of the sky. The SB2 tries to make an attack on its own against me, but I'm not even trying to follow that. I mean, yeah, no way in hell. Let the others deal with this guy. I do have a bunch of 20mm rounds remaining, but still, I do not want to engage that thing. And I'm top of the leaderboard with 4 kills right now. And, yeah, no, I'm not. But, yeah, the B-109 gets the kill on the SB2, so good for him. And that's game. So, let's take a quick look at these results. A little bit more money this time. But yeah. This was actually a pretty good match actually. And for the last presentation again we have the D.XXI in another up tier. This time against Corsairs, P-38s and BF-9s, so we have some very stiff competition. We need to be careful not to get our ass blasted out of the sky by one of these boom and zoomers. And I am just trying at here to get into the furball. Check our 6, nothing's behind us. Okay, we have team support. And there is the enemy. We have a P-38 down low, whatever he thinks he's doing. And he's trying to basically fight it out down low, which is certainly something you should not do with the P-38. And again, you can see just how slow that closing speed is, even in a dive. I mean, it takes a while to get into the furball here, but eventually I managed to close the distance and get some shots off into the P-38. And the P-38 is a fast aircraft, it could easily outrun the Fokker D.XXI, but this guy decides to fight it out down low, and he pays with his aircraft for it. Boom! Knocked his ass out of the sky. Immediately switch to the B-109E, get some good shots into him, and with the Fokker D.XXI's great maneuverability, I can easily stay horizontal in the turn and get on his 6. And that's gonna be the end of him. Again, stay on his tail, and kaboom. We will continue the turn. We have the Corsair spotted, and again, he is doing stuff he should not be doing in the Corsair, fighting it out down low. The Corsair is a great boom and zoomer, it is not a great dogfighter, particularly not at low speed. And with the D.XXI's very low wing loading, I can easily stay in the turn, get him critical, continue the turn in the horizontal, and then I can just pepper his fuselage with 7.7 and 20mm cannon fire. And this is where I get my third kill. We'll look around, and the B-109E makes its appearance, and I can use the D.XXI's great rudder authority to drop out of the turn and throw his aim off. Taking her into the vertical. In this situation, I usually should try to fly the D.XXI in the horizontal. In this situation, it was better to take it into the vertical against the 109, particularly as he was at such low speed that I was hoping to catch him in when he stalls out. And again, using the great rudder authority for the hammerhead, but sadly I don't get the kill on the B-109. But hey. And yeah, wasted my fired off all my ammunition, went back for a landing, again took forever to reach the airfield, and we're now sitting at the runway not trying, but rearming. There's only one aircraft left on the enemy team at this point. It's the A-29, and he's gonna, to make it short, he's gonna die to the MiG-3. So no involvement from me anymore in this battle. We've won. I've got 3 kills in a full up tier, so I will certainly not complain about that. Look at that. And yeah, this really demonstrates the Fokker D.XXI's great dogfighting ability. If you can get into these furballs, the Fokker D.XXI can be tremendous fun. However, getting there and then trying to rearm or reach the battlefield first in the first place, this is really where this thing gets boring. But again, you can see not a bad match. Top of the leaderboard, and yeah. So then, this brings this presentation about the Fokker D.XXI to an end. Well, would I recommend this machine? So I have to say no. Again, this is not a bad machine, but just for me it wasn't fun. The problem is that should you want to go down the Swedish aviation tech tree, there are better choices. Sadly, the Pyramerska I think was removed from the game, from the shop, if I'm not mistaken. You could go for the B from 96, but that one costs quite a lot. You could get the D.XXI. It's up to your choice, but be prepared. This thing might not be to your liking. I mean, it's not a bad machine again, and if you can sort of enjoy this sort of playstyle, then go for it. But it just was not my cup of tea. But yeah, that's the D.XXI for you. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, maybe even learned something, and again, I'll see you in the next one.